All right. So, welcome. My name is Lonnie Douglas. I'm with the Eugene Springfield Solidarity Network, Jobs with Justice. This is our second interview with Lisa Jenkins-Easton. Did I say that right?
Mhm.
And who is the president of OSEA, Chapter 1 here in Eugene, which is the Oregon School Employees Association, right?
Yes.
And currently you guys are in bargaining with 4J School District. So we're just here to kind of find out what's going on and get some input from you, like kind of get the 411 on what is happening with your bargaining, and maybe even talk a little bit about in general what we're seeing with our school districts and our K through 12, our schools and things like that. So anyway, uh Lisa, welcome. And so, how are things going? You're in bargaining.
Things are not going well. Um, we initially put our demand to bargain the contract back in February, thinking, okay, we'll get this rolling and maybe get done before it expires or as it expires, June 30th. That was our goal. The district clearly had other goals, and they have scheduled bargaining sessions all the way through December 12th. And uh, canceled our most recent session this past Monday, yesterday. Um, right? Is that yesterday? No, it's Wednesday. Sorry.
Yep.
They canceled our session on Monday due to their labor attorney's personal emergency. And while I'm sympathetic that life happens and people have personal emergencies, I don't think that we would have gotten the same grace had it been our staff member. We would have been expected, our OSCA staff member, or even someone on our bargaining team, we would have been expected to move forward. Um, Bargaining has been very different this time compared to our last contract negotiations. Um, Last time we had some middle management on their team. This time there's none. Um, they're all director level, aside from the classified benefits, our classified HR administrator. Uh, and that's interesting because those are the top paid people, and they're all getting paid for every minute they spend bargaining, where several of my team members are spending time unpaid to bargain with them, and they're dragging this out for 9 months now.
Yeah. No, I think that's interesting that, so the lawyer you're talking about is Duckworth, right?
Yes, Chris Duckworth.
Yes, Chris Duckworth, which I've been at, so I've seen him bargain with EEA, Eugene Education Association, and I saw him when you guys were doing your sort of special bargaining back, was it last year, the beginning of last year?
Yeah,
Uh,
for Senate
and
bill.
right,
Yes.
and now he's apparently also, so he's also the one bargaining with LCCEA over at Lane.
Mhm.
So, and I found it very interesting because I saw the contrast because your guys' bargaining sessions are open, and I've attended yours and I attended EEA's, and I find it really interesting that he seems to treat, and the bargaining team, at least from what I've seen, seems to treat the classified workers, you guys, very different than they treat like the teachers. They're a little more haha buddy buddy sometimes with the teachers, or a little more not really that, but they're more, they treat the teachers with a little more respect than they seem to treat you
Yeah.
guys. I saw things that I thought they were being very disrespectful.
Mhm.
Can you kind of speak to that, how you guys feel about that or what you've seen? Because I mean, that's me observing as a community member watching these.
Yeah, so the tone and demeanor of their team is very condescending. Um, they don't speak to us. None of the team members. The labor attorney is the only one that speaks at the table. Um, and these are our highest paid employees at the table with the district's team and supposedly the experts in their field, which is what guided them to the top of the school district, right? Like that they are professional, they're educated, they know what it's like to work in schools. And instead we get questioned about um, our experiences or treated like our experiences don't matter. And those very high level employees of the district remain silent. They don't confirm, they don't deny what we're saying. They don't seem in a hurry to resolve how we could fix some of these things, either through pay or language in the contract to improve the working conditions that we experience. And it's tough. Like our team, I feel they're empowered to speak to what they know. And so we have a variety of classifications on our team. We do have an OSEA staff member, and she is basically there as a support for us to help us, craft the language, right, and the proposals. But at the end of the day, if we had to do it without her, we could. And so my members are asking, like, why should 1,000 of us, that's how many classified employees, a little over 1,000, we've waited 9 months to get somewhere to know if were even getting a raise. And the district keeps asserting that they don't want to do retro pay. So we've all been working under an expired contract and they don't want to provide retro pay, which they did for the teachers. Their narrative is very strong right now about the $30 million shortage that they're experiencing. And at the end of the day, priorities need to be chosen. And now that I'm learning more and more about the things that may get cut because maybe they weren't needed in the first place, it's really disheartening. We asked for a differential during our interim bargaining for Senate Bill 756 for the workers that work in SPED classrooms and life skills because the staffing was so short and it was dangerous. Like students need adults in the room. Adults need other adults in the room to, combat their fatigue and worry and feeling stretched too thin. And the district was adamant about, no, you don't deserve or need a differential. You're going to bargain and you'll get your raise then. And here we are. That was a little over a year ago. It hasn't happened
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
And we feel lied to, frankly.
Right. Well, I mean, they said, we'll bargain, told you not to bargain it then, we'll bargain it now. And now they're not wanting to bargain it, it sounds like, right? Well,
Yeah, it's a
oh, go
delay.
ahead.
The federal concerns that are going on and the SNAP benefits that they're interrupted right now. And my bargaining unit are the people that need those critical supports for food security to be able to feed their families. And having their raise before something like this had happened could have helped a lot. We throw away hundreds of thousands of pounds of food in our schools, and um, it's really hard to continue to watch the district's disrespect towards us and know some of the things that go on, things that are money is spent on.
Yeah. Can we kind of clarify for people who might not know, right? That, I mean, obviously, most people think the union, oh, a teachers union, which is EEA, that's your teachers and people like that. Clarify who exactly 1,000 people that you represent as OSEA, who are those? Who are those workers? Because I think some people might be thinking that like your teachers, and granted, I don't think our teachers get paid enough in this country anyway for the work that they do, but you guys aren't teachers, right? So can you clarify
Correct.
that for people?
Yeah, so I represent everyone but teachers and management. So all of the support staff, clerical, technology, custodial, nutrition, transportation. Um, and it's a very diverse group of people with lots of different skills. So we have some tradespeople in there as well. Uh, Mechanics in the transportation department and I know I'm forgetting people, our educational assistants who help the teachers. So in a special education environment, a lead teacher will have a team of EAs that they literally could not run the classroom without.
Right.
And some teams are as big as 10, or at least should be. Oftentimes they're short-staffed. And so you have a lead teacher who's managing this really big team. Um, who then are supporting students with like a whole variety of needs, many of them medical duties and academic, social, emotional supports. And so um, some teachers are really skilled at that and some are not. And and when the classroom is short staffed, the tensions can become extra hard to deal with.
Well, and I kind of want to clarify that for people as well, because when we talk about, I mean, if people do not have a child, or if not had a needs a child with special needs, or know somebody who has, they may not understand what we're talking about. And what we're talking about is, you know, things like children with developmental disabilities or significant medical needs. And if they didn't have those supports within our school system, they would not be able to go to school or be educated, right? Can you speak a little bit more to what we mean when we talk about special needs?
Yeah, so we don't have enough nurses in our schools. Our nurses are licensed, they're part of the EEA bargaining unit. Um, we typically would have had licensed practical nurses, LPNs, but recently found out that the district had been contracting those jobs out for, we think, around 5 years at this point, that without ever having informed OSEA or tried to address the pay scale. And we've learned that those contract nurses are making upwards of $65 to $75 an hour. And yet they don't want to give a stipend to classified staff who may be providing toileting support or diabetic care, catheters, feeding tubes, seizure protocols. There's a whole lot of variety in the needs of our students, and they deserve the dignity of having somebody who can care for them and be compensated for the liability and the risk that they're putting themselves in for allowing, their job to expand in a way that they hadn't expected. People go into education not thinking that they would provide nursing duties, maybe a band-aid here and there, but not some of the more complex things that students come to school with. And so um, it's really frustrating to know that for 5 years, the district has been spending this kind of money on contract nurses and that they never told OSEA.
Right. Well, and when we talk about like, I'm a big fan of our nurses and our nursing unions, and again, I think nurses probably don't get as much as they should get paid. I think everybody doesn't get as much as they're supposed to get paid, but for the work that we do. But I do know that when my understanding is when most of the time when contract nurses are paid, a significant part of what a company, either a hospital or in this case, a school district is paying isn't going to the nurse. It's going to, oh, I think I just lost you. Let me give her a minute to come back on and I will pause us until she does. All right, we're back. So obviously had a little glitch there. But to get back into what I was saying was regarding contract nurses or hiring nurses like outside, usually you're hiring them through a company or whatever, so you're paying a lot more than they would if they just hired the nurse themselves. And because you're getting a lot of times these contract nurses, you get different nurses and stuff. You're also not getting the continuity, what we call, continuity of care. Those nurses may not develop relationships with the students and such like they would if they were working for the school district. Is that not correct? I mean, that's pretty obvious
It's
to most
not,
people.
it's not the preference of our registered nurses or our classified staff to have a contract nurse in the
Yep.
building. Um, you're right. The care is inconsistent. They live like an itinerant lifestyle, so they are fine to kind of move on and as they will, and that's their prerogative. But in schools, we want to really build community and trust, and so with students, medical needs especially, I think it's important that they have that continuity of care.
Yes. Especially when you're dealing with some of the students who do have developmental disabilities and issues, because it things are that works a lot better if they have consistent people to work with. My mom worked in DD services in group homes and such, and that's what she always told me. So and she was, so yeah, it just makes more sense. But I also want to ask you about the thing is, I mean, we obviously we're talking about nurses and such, but the other workers, your janitors, your bus drivers, your lunch ladies or lunchroom attendants, the people that actually keep the school functioning. I mean, we have the teachers, which you can't have a school without teachers. The reality is you can't have a school without the other people either.
Yeah.
It doesn't function, and yet it seems like from what you're saying and from what I've seen, the respect toward those regular, common working class folk that are keeping our schools functioning from management and the higher ups seems the relationship seems pretty disrespectful to me.
Yeah. Um, an interesting thing that's been happening when we have bargaining sessions is that the district's team will order themselves catered meals from our nutrition services department. And so it's it's interesting that they're having classified employees prepare and clean up after them also while we bargain instead of buying their own lunch somewhere else or something. I'm not really sure what the point is of them doing that. I know they're trying to like bolster their catering program, which is losing a lot of money. Um, but it feels disrespectful to leave the dirty dishes behind for a classified employee to clean them up
Well,
later.
and so these people are, I'm sure, making what, 30, $40,000 a year? No, they're not.
Uh, yeah.
I'm talking about
No, they're not.
I'm talking about management. They're probably so do we know like how much do these people make a year? I'm just
Six
curious.
figures easily.
Six
Yeah,
figures.
they're our highest
So,
paid employees.
right. So of course you've got these people making six figures a year in management who are bargaining with, the regular working class folk. And so I guess it makes sense that they would want you guys to wait on them, serve them, and have our tax dollars pay for a nice meal while they stick it to workers. And yes, I'm being unbiased here because I find it, I myself, as a somebody who pays taxes, I own a home. My tax dollars are going to the school district. I have no children, never had any kids, but I want our kids to like, I want other people's kids to get educated and not be stupid, because when I'm really old and have to rely on all those kids to take care of our society, I want them to be smart. So, so it kind of
Yeah.
irritates me a little bit as a taxpayer that it's like, um, well, it irritates me that they're dragging out this kind of this bargaining when it shouldn't be that difficult. It also irritates me that they're paying for lawyers. So this is my thing.
Mhm.
Has When did they start using lawyers and paying for lawyers to bargain? Because your staff person's not a lawyer, correct?
No, they are not. No.
Right. And how long have they been using the lawyers? Because I know at LCCEA, where Mr. Duckworth is also bargaining, this is the first time that the Lane Community College has used a lawyer. For management just did
Interesting.
their job. They interacted with the workers, bargaining, supposedly bargaining in good faith. And now all of a
Mhm.
sudden they're getting a lawyer. How long is it, when did they start using lawyers with you guys?
Oh, I think in 4J it's been a couple, at least a decade or longer, maybe two, because we also have an attorney who's on staff who is a 4J employee, who handles other legal matters for the district. But she used to do the bargaining for our contracts. And so I was on the bargaining team for our last contract, and that's when Chris Duckworth was first hired. And I've spent quite a bit of time at the table with the district, with him leading their team. And again, I just go back to these are the highest paid professionals in our school system who should know what we say is important, who should be willing to negotiate a fair contract and address issues as best we both can, like in a fair manner. And to see them just be silent is it's really concerning. Like this wasn't this way in the last round of negotiations. Their team talked, would clarify things. Every once in a while he'll ask them if they have questions, and they're all like no, and they just shake their heads quietly. Um, the lack of engagement with them, it again, it feels disrespectful. Like we're there in good faith. We show up every time. I have a couple team members who are going through some serious life circumstances, and they still keep showing up because they know that there's over 1,000 employees depending on them to get this done. And I just don't feel like they're prioritizing us to get it done. And there's just been a whole lot of extra things happening in the background that had never happened before while our contract is expired. And so I have deep concerns about the extra scrutiny that classified employees get generally, but it seems like it has gone up uh, immensely since the contract expired. We started the school year finding out that supervisors were told they're not allowed to do any meeting with OSEA without HR present. And when you're trying to address things informally, the last thing you want to do is have an HR administrator present, um, because then it's no longer informal. It's
Right.
very formal to the employee. It's very intimidating. And the other thing that we've noticed is that there will be often between 2 and 4 administrators in every disciplinary meeting. And so when, again, we're talking about the highest paid employees, does it take 4 of them in a meeting with a person who makes in a day what they collectively make, you know, in an hour? Um, it
Well,
again, like why? Why is
right.
this necessary?
Well, any reasonable person who's working class person knows exactly why. It's an intimidation
Yeah,
tactic. I
for sure.
mean, it doesn't matter whether you work at McDonald's or you work at, Goldman Sachs or whatever. I mean, that's an obvious intimidation tactic. I
This
mean,
is
and
the
and
the Pollyanna in me though is like, this is a school, this is education, and we teach kids to do better, and we can do better, and we should.
I,
Um, and I naively keep striving for that. And I will continue to do so because I think that there is a chance for things to be better. There has been a couple of movements by the district to uh, mirror some language that EEA has that we've never had. So that's good. It shows um, some humanity in
yep.
that people are people and you should be treated with a certain level of care because you're a person, not just because you're paid more. Um,
Right.
but again, if we don't uphold it after the contract's done, right? If we're not having our members say, hey, you can't do this to me, the contract says so, um, it falls apart. And then it was for naught. So we're trying to do these two things at the same time, which is pull in the dignity and respect in the contract language and also educate our members that you deserve this. Because a lot of them think that they don't deserve it, that this is just the way it is and that we can just keep keep on, you know.
Well, you find that I mean, that's a good point to bring up because we see that in a lot of service industries. When I say service industries, I'm talking about like schools where you have teachers and you know and the people that support the schools, you know, the bus drivers, the lunch ladies, the janitors. You have the same thing in nursing homes and caregiving homes where you have those staff and that's you know are supporting the nurses and taking care of people. And it seems always that management and the bosses always want to use that guilt. Same thing with nurses and in our hospitals and stuff. It's like, oh, well, yeah, we're treating you like we're disrespecting you. We're treating you bad. We're not paying you what you're worth. But oh, you can't complain about it because what about the children? What about the elderly people that we're taking care of? What about, you know, the patients? And it's like, yeah, but what about the workers? And meanwhile,
Yeah.
management is what? Making six figures, like you said. I'm like, I have no like I'm a bit of a capitalist. No problem with people making money, but people should be paid what they're worth. And the reality is, if you're not professional in managerial class, that class of people seem to think that everybody else deserves table scraps and doesn't deserve to be respected. I
Yeah.
keep seeing it. And
We have a
frankly,
new superintendent who started July 1st, and last spring was when they announced, you know, this $30 million deficit that was coming. And we had an interim superintendent at the time who said from his microphone that he wanted people to come and justify their jobs because I had 60 layoff notices go out to my people. And so we did. We showed up and we, you know, people justified their jobs. And it felt also disrespectful that that had to happen. And then in the same breath, also say, we didn't look at the management group at all. We made zero
yeah,
cuts
that's what I was
management.
going to ask was how many of the people in management had to come up in front of everybody and justify their jobs?
They don't.
Like,
And
exactly.
there's a school board member that said something along the lines of like how hard it would be to lay off any of the district leadership because we know them all. And
Because that class of people, again, it's a small class of people, wealthy elite, professional and managerial class that, you know, that they take care of their own, right? It's and I think that more people in our community have to look at that because how many like I mean, how many administrators does it take to run a school district? I was in the Coast Guard for 25 years. And on a ship, you need a lot more. of your enlisted, your sailors, you only need a few officers. I mean,
Mhm.
you only need a
Right.
few administrators because they're not the ones actually doing the day-to-day work. And if you're but what we've gotten in the habit of doing is paying hundreds of salaries, hundreds of thousands of dollars to people that frankly are, you know, a perfect example is Office Space, right? I mean, I love that movie. It's like, how many people are going to come and ask you for your TPS reports? Just saying, right? And it sounds like that's what we've got at our school district as well.
And I think that our new superintendent has already made some really critical moves with the budget. And so I do want to acknowledge that and respect that because it needed to happen. Um, there was some big uproar last year about having seven assistant superintendents. And so she has um, given layoff notices to four of them. And she will make do with one assistant superintendent. So I think that um, I think that was a good move. It sent a signal of some trust that maybe not as many people who are lower paid will have to show up and beg for their job and justify their existence in our district. At least I hope. There's a long way to go to address a $30 million shortfall. Um, what is concerning also is that the financial team at the district is remaining the same as far as I can tell. And when someone says that we're suddenly this in the hole, or few someone's, right? Like their whole team is saying this, you had to have seen it coming. You knew that our bargain was coming. You knew our contract was expiring. Um, why didn't you do better with the money to make sure that we don't lose valuable trained staff? Um,
Yeah.
again, like instead you put all new furniture in cubicles in your department and created some more positions and yeah, it's tough to watch all of that.
Yeah. I think, I think that's a good, a big conversation maybe that we need to be having because I know that there's been a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, but a lot of confusion around budgets and all that stuff with all the things that we see with the president and the administration threatening to hold funds and things like that. How does that affect, or how has that affected, our budgets within our K through 12 within our school districts is separate from like all the colleges, but just I mean through our K
Right.
through
No,
12, how is that affecting things?
it's definitely a roller coaster with certain grants that are title grants that give direct support for certain things like reading and early literacy and equity, inclusion, all of those things. And so when the grants dry up, the district has to decide if they're going to use their general fund to continue those programs or services. Um, I'm not a financial expert, but what I struggle to understand is there's much emphasis placed on the general fund, which represents 51% of the total dollars in the district. And so when we're told like the general fund is this much money and we're this much short, I want to know about the other 49%, which some are grants and some are not. So it's this whole, public funds are always put in like buckets of money and certain line items go here and there. And to really understand it, you have to be um, a financial expert, but it also means that you're an expert at hiding things, frankly. You're
Yep.
good at the charts and graphs with the big cliffs that fall down dramatically, you know. And so
Right.
that's what the public sees, the line going into the ground, and it causes the panic and the fear. And so when they keep putting themselves also in the news cycle with the media about how this budget shortfall is here, um and I'm concerned that that's happening alongside our bargain. That, even on Monday, they made a press release to say that the bargaining session was canceled. They didn't and send an email to any of our employees saying, like, this was on us, this was our choice. They didn't own their decision to not proceed. Um, and people are mad about that. That you would go to a news outlet or media and say, we've canceled this bargaining session with OSEA, and not even tell the employees anything directly.
Well, I mean, let's be real. If it was a business bargaining a contract with another business and they behaved that way, you know, they would like people would
Do
quit doing
business.
business. People would quit doing business with them.
Yeah.
Come on. It's like, what do you mean? You just at the last minute you're going to cancel our meeting, and I mean,
Yep.
I'm like I say, I'm a bit more old school. I'm like, if it's one thing if you're in management, like if you're in leadership, like suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, you got a job to do, you do it. And more so for your leadership. I mean, when in the service, it was like, if one of my sailors was not feeling well or had something happen, I'd be like, go home. But guess what? If it was one of us chiefs or it was one of the officers, especially a senior leadership, it'd be like, no, suck it up. We got a job to do. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I understand work-life balance and things like that, but I also understand that the other thing is we would have somebody that could step in. Like if you don't have somebody, there's an entire bargaining team there. If they can't step in, somebody can't step in for that person. That shows really poor leadership and really poor organizing, in my opinion. But that's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm a hard ass. I don't know. I'm an old sailor. I'm like,
I think it's an interesting question to ponder because these people all have master's degrees and doctorates across the table, right? And we're the classified employees. We don't all have master's degrees and doctorates. Um, some of us have went to college, some of us haven't, but we're figuring it out. We're training, we're getting ourselves trained and learning how to do this with in good faith and following the rules and showing up when we're supposed to show up. And so to be told, at certain
right,
points that we don't know what our priorities are, or that um, they're just dismissive and condescending at the table about things that we say.
right.
We've come prepared every time.
Yeah.
We've
Well,
handed
it's,
proposals every time, and
yeah,
more often than not, they don't have anything for us. They've ended sessions up to an hour early sometimes because they say they can't turn anything around. And never once have we said we had a hard stop. Like if you needed
right.
an extra half hour to get something turned around, like let's do that and get done. So
Well, I mean, let's be honest, right? The working class get shit done, and the managers and the bosses, I mean, you know, honestly,
we're an efficient
don't.
team because we work in this district and we know what it takes to
Yeah.
get the work done. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, look at anyone who works, I don't care where you work. I don't care if you're working in a mill, fucking, cutting lumber. I don't care if you're working flipping burgers. I don't care if you work cleaning up hotels or sweeping floors or whatever. Regular people have to show up and have to do their job. And if they don't, they get fired. The higher up you go in the food chain on that ladder for the managerial and professionals, it's like, no, they don't. My brother, it was funny. My brother was taking a college class. A lot of young kids were there, and one of the things, it was a writing class, and they had to talk about uh, some. I guess they were. He wrote something on people being tested for marijuana before marijuana was legal in Oregon. And these kids were all what when he was talking to them and doing his project, it was brought up that, well, you know, only poor people get tested for marijuana for the most part. And none of the kids believed it. All these young kids were like, of course that's not true. And of course the professor was like, well, actually, yeah, they may test you to work at McDonald's or they may test you to work wherever if you're poor,
Mhm.
but doctors don't get tested regularly. Lawyers don't get tested regularly. CEOs of Fortune 500 companies don't get tested regularly. If they did, come on, let's be honest, a lot of them would not be employed.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, it's that accountability. We hold the regular working class person far more accountable than we do, you know,
Yeah.
the wealthier and more powerful people in our communities. And honestly, I think it should be the other way around. I mean, the people that affect our lives. I mean, these people at 4J are like literally in charge of the education of the children in our community, and we should be holding them far more accountable, I think, than anybody, but we don't. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm getting on my soapbox and such.
Okay. I
But
I
you know,
engage a lot with other leaders from around the state because I'm on the OSEA board of directors as well. And so when I share stories about what's going on here, 4J really does stand out as not a good place to be compared to. And as far as like even relationships with OSEA leadership, other districts don't deal. Other leaders don't deal with the things that I've dealt with in this district. Um, and so it's this constant like, why is everything so bad? And I really think it comes down to that you keep doing the same things and it makes it bad. It makes it hard. You don't listen to the things that we say, or you don't respect it and you don't want to change it because someone's benefiting somewhere to keep it this way. We're
bad
looked at it,
leadership.
yeah, we're just disposable, we can be replaced, but there's still a crisis in educating people. And I think if you treat them well, for certain to a certain extent, the money doesn't matter as much if you are treated well. Um, but
Yeah, definitely.
when you're treated poorly, it's hard to keep showing up.
Hmm.
You second guess yourself. The gaslighting becomes
Right.
too heavy, and eventually you have to walk away. And so I've had multiple resignations already this year.
Yep.
Um,
Well, as a
the
as a as
start
a
of
as
school.
an organizer in the community, as a labor organizer, you know, I've I've found places. It You're right. If an employer treats their workers well, if they're respectful to them, they listen to them, and they treat them well, I've found that their employees are actually often willing to stay and work there for less money they would get somewhere else because the work environment is so good. And we find that as organizers trying to do union organizing, it's a lot harder to roll in to a place and organize workers if the boss is treating them with respect, is, is listening to them, and is a good boss, because people, what do they say? They're like, well, we really don't need a union. Our boss is pretty cool. And
Mhm.
that's great until that boss goes away and you get a boss that ain't cool. But that's the thing is what
Yeah.
workers, I mean, workers got to make enough to live off of. But if you're a good boss, it makes things go a lot easier. If people are upset and angry and you're losing workers, there's probably a problem with your leadership, whether it's a manager, whether it's an administrator, whoever. That's just common sense. Everybody knows that, you know?
Yeah, sure.
So I have a
Yeah.
question for you for the actual bargaining. So what are you guys right now? What are the biggest things that are hangups for the bargaining, like for manage? What are the biggest fights you have right now for your like things that you're fighting over or having to try to get done for your bargaining right now?
Um, so our proposal for COLA, we've dropped it down from 10% to 8.5%, and they have offered 3.25. They recently went up a 1/4% in years 2 and 3. They want a 3-year contract. We want a 2-year contract. Um, the insurance contribution, we've proposed a $60 a month increase in the insurance contribution, and they are saying $20. We know health insurance is going to skyrocket. Like we just know that's coming. It's already happening. And so that's a big sticking point to at least acknowledge, that our our bargaining unit has a more difficult time paying health insurance premiums. Generally, out of 1,080 employees or so, only about 250 of them are full time and 12-month. The rest are part time, and they're off in the summer. And so paying those health insurance premiums is very difficult on part-time wages when they go up. Um, we have a standalone transportation article in our contract that's always been there. It hasn't been updated in at least a decade. And the way that the system works now, it's just with all the services that our bus service provides to contract out for other programs, and because we do like Head Start and um, early childhood cares and some of these other places, and then we have trips and athletics and all sorts of things. So they want to revamp that article completely, and so we've had this back and forth of trying to help their labor attorney understand how transportation works. They don't even have their transportation director on their bargaining team. My understanding is there's a group of management that's also sitting in a room listening on Zoom, um, which is interesting. So when you're talking about dollars and cents of how much is being spent on this bargain by the district, and you count all the wages of all those people, that's a lot of money. Um, and here we are trying to like improve the bilingual stipend that supports our students and make sure that people are compensated for having that skill. They want to keep it like a flat amount. We want it to be a percentage. Um, Teachers got a percentage. They didn't have a bilingual stipend or payment before. The teachers got that in their last contract, so we've asked for a percentage as well. Um, we want them to keep the retention bonuses for transportation that they had implemented February of last year, and they expired in June because there's a CDL driver shortage. And more often than not, uh, our department is training drivers who then leave really quickly and go work for what I call beer and chips, because they can make way more money delivering beer and chips than they can our kids. And so 4J's, subsidizing all this training, and then people leave and go make more money somewhere else. And so letting these
Yeah.
retention bonuses go away is not great, that
Well, yeah, I
department.
mean, if you're gonna pay somebody, you're gonna pay to train someone. Again, in the military,
Mhm.
you get training, and there's certain jobs that you can get the training in, and then on this in the civilian world, you can get really good jobs doing that same work. So what does the military do? They give re-enlistment bonuses, all that sort of stuff. Any company does the same thing. If you have a company, whoop, that's sorry, you have a company that's training people, giving them specialized training like a CDL,
Right.
and and then they're going to have to make sure that they pay enough and give enough incentives to keep those people. Otherwise, they're just going to keep wasting money training new people. And those people are going to go find better jobs. I mean, that's just bad management right there.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, I mean,
mean,
you have a legal obligation to get kids to school on a school bus. It's a law. And,
yeah.
talking about drug testing, like drivers have to be drug tested.
Hmm.
In a city like Eugene, that limits your capacity of your hiring pool a little bit because, there's a lot of partaking in our community of certain things.
Yeah, a lot of
Right.
what do they call that? It was like 350 friendly. What do they, what, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a number they use.
I have no idea. But
I don't know. I was in the military, so you're not allowed to use like marijuana. Even if it was legal, when it was legal, we weren't allowed to. So
yeah,
I just
drivers
never
follow
tried
the
it.
federal law. And so
Yeah.
they get random drug tested in that department.
Hmm.
Um, and some of them are so like conscientious and amazing that they don't even drive their personal vehicles on the weekends because it could impact their licensure. They're worried about getting an offender bender, or getting, some, even if it's not their fault, they're worried
Hmm.
about having that happen and having an accident on their record. So they'll let their partner or their spouse drive them places.
Yeah.
Our drivers are very, very
Yeah.
conscientious and care a lot to keep,
Yep. Well, you got a CDL, you can make some good. I mean, you can make some pretty good money if you got a CDL. So yeah, I'm surprised that the school district, if they're going to train people that way, that they don't have more incentive
yeah.
to keep those people. I mean, it makes no sense to me. But so I'm curious about so those things. How about the relationship between you guys, the school board, and management's bargaining team and stuff? Because ultimately, like the school board, like you know, I would assume the school board is I mean, we elect them to run, elect them to make sure our schools are running well. So what's the relationship there with the bargaining and the school board?
I have a couple of school board members that will attend a session occasionally. They have working agreements amongst themselves not to talk to any union leadership during negotiations about anything to do with working conditions. So conversations are not, we don't have them. Um, and And it's interesting because it's not against the law for me to say whatever I need to say. They don't have to make commitments or promises back to me or give me solutions, but the fact that they don't want to hear at all is another level of disrespect. And so I usually go to a school board meeting and inform them of what's going on, and then it's public, and they probably hate that. But if you close the channels and you don't want to hear, I don't know how else to like make sure that OSCA's priorities are highlighted correctly because I can't trust or depend on their labor attorney to do
Right.
so.
Well,
Um,
and I'm curious about that because so does that mean that the administration of 4J is not engaging with the school board during bargaining? Because I know that the same lawyer, Darkwing Duck or whatever, Duckworth. Um, I know I'm poking at him because I mean that name is just too freaking awesome. Like, but like I know that he recently he was bargaining with LCC EA over at Lane, and they insisted that the school board or that the education board over there couldn't even attend the meetings. So, like, I mean, that's a whole issue over there with them. But I mean, it seems obvious to me that, with
Our ground rules,
4J,
we almost walked away from having any ground rules at all because the ground rules they wanted was closed doors. And
right,
as a leader, this I'm going into my third year being president of this chapter, and that was one of the immediate changes I made was like no more closed door bargains about anything. And
right,
so any interim bargaining has also been with a bargaining team of the workers that are impacted by whatever those things were. And I don't do all of the jobs in the district, but I
yep,
care about all of the jobs. And I want to make sure that people doing the work are telling their union leadership like what they need so that we do it right, hopefully.
yep.
Um, and the district has continued to hire this person who proposes these outlandish things. And
Well, I mean,
then it has the nerve to tell me, well, Lisa, it's been that way since the 90s. And I have to say, I don't care. It needs to change. These are public dollars. The public should be able to hear and see all of the comments that are made about all of the topics that we cover. And I just keep sticking to that. So
let's be honest. My perception of, Mr. Duckworth is that, he's just another one of these, anti-worker, anti, union lawyers that are out there. I mean, we have, companies like in the private sector, like Fisher Phillips. That's the company that, was helping Bigfoot Beverages to try and bust the union there with the Teamsters and stuff. We have these, and we have to be honest that in our public sector, our school districts, our city, our city government, our county government, our state government. I mean, we're starting to see more of a push in our public sector to start doing the same thing, hiring these anti-union, anti-worker, law firms and companies to try to, railroad or
and
bust the
HR,
union.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
their
not
HR
bargaining in good.
people are okay. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not bargaining. I mean, honestly, the way I see it, they're not really bargaining in good faith, which is a requirement of the law, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
I,
I think it's it's
I
it's
think
it's distressing.
back to your question about like school board stuff, the fact that they've given away their decision-making authority as elected
Yes.
people, they've given it away to someone else, and they're paying that person to continue to make not great decisions. The Senate Bill 756 fight went on for 10 months as well. So is that like the magic number of when we get an agreement in place? Is that this lawyer needs to be paid for 10 months and then we finally get somewhere because we're getting there with our bargain. Um, it sure feels like a pattern. Um, and I'm sure it's expensive. We have asked repeatedly how much this is costing our taxpayers and can't get a straight answer from anyone.
Well,
I
maybe that's something we need to do as ESSN is Jobs with Justice is a community organization is maybe we need to start asking that because I want to know. I want to know what my tax dollars are paying for. If for
I,
like for I mean if we've had in the past unions bargaining with with the employer, whether it's 4J, the city of Eugene, Lane County, the city of Springfield, and you don't need a lawyer to do that. What I find is the
no,
only reason to do a lawyer is to try to, honestly, I know some lawyers might get mad at me, but lawyers muck things up. Regular people can
mm,
come, these things have traditionally not needed a lawyer, and they've worked fine. Usually, when we hire when a lawyer is hired, it's, in these type of situations, it's to try to muck things up and drag things out and,
That's the union.
yeah, and bust the
Definitely.
union. And exactly. And the reality is our elected school board members, just like our elected city councils, our elected county commissioners, we elect those people to deal with this stuff. And if they're trying to hire lawyers or allowing unelected administrators, like at the Lane, the president of Lane County, or the city administrator here, if they're allowing those people to like sort of take over what they've been elected to do, like I have a real problem with that. I mean, do your job, you know?
In other districts, it's rare for an OSCA chapter, I think, to bargain with an attorney, except for in our bigger school districts that obviously have more money. And so when you look at mid-size or rural, they're bargaining directly with their superintendent and maybe their financial director, and that's it.
Yep.
Um, and so I know it's possible. We don't have a lawyer at the table ever, and partly it's costly, right? Like it costs a lot. And we know if we need a consult, we can get it. So
Hmm.
like why can't the district just do it as a consultation if they're really that hemmed up and really that confused about what they should do? Uh,
No.
the fear
Apparently,
is
apparently all those people with, I'm sorry, apparently all those people with their master's degrees and their doctorates are not smart enough to figure out what the bus drivers and the lunch ladies and the janitors and those people have figured out, that the shit isn't rocket science. Pardon
it's
my
not.
language.
I never in my life thought that I would do this kind of work or be capable of it, but if I can do it, anybody can. Like literally, like it is not, you just have to take away the mystery and study the
Yep.
rules. Like that's anyone that has a higher education degree like that should be able to accomplish this. And it would save the
Yep.
district a whole bunch of money to not have so many of them do not
Yep.
do very little. Um,
I deal with a lot of people that, when as we organize workplaces, whether it's grocery store workers or fast food workers, or, when you got people in the trades, it's like these
yeah.
people are able to figure it out. And the
Mhm.
key, the key with bargaining is both sides need to do it in good faith. Again, I'm a capitalist. I believe in, small business, local small businesses. I'm not a fan of big corporations or billionaires. Screw those people. But regular small businesses and things like that. And you know what? The best thing for our communities is when the small business owner and the worker and the community, when they all work together and are all like supporting each other, like everybody benefits. But
Yeah.
when you have these people, that are making six figures a year, and they look at the worker as the enemy,
Yeah.
and that happens in our government, in our schools, in our businesses, then everything
Well,
falls
yeah. I
apart.
mean, the teachers finished bargaining in December of last year. And then immediately what they fought for, I think, was around 5.5% for a COLA. All of the management automatically gave themselves the same exact COLA. They didn't have to ask for it. They knew this budget crisis was coming and they still took their raises. And now, they
And
didn't
they
do they
offered you what?
3.25. So they didn't even
Right,
offer us the baseline of what they've already gotten. They didn't even
exactly.
start
And
there.
the thing to remember is that, so they got a what,
5.
5.5. Five
Mhm.
point five pay raise for somebody making $100,000 a year is a lot more of a pay raise than a 5.5 percent for somebody making $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year. So I mean, they're literally they're giving themselves a pay raise of thousands of dollars. You know what 5.5 for 100,000 would be 5,000 point five, so like 5,500. I don't know. Yeah, 5,005. I'm really bad at math. Whereas, if you're making like 30 grand, not even close to that. And I'm not doing the math in my head,
Yeah.
but it sounds kind of
It's not the
sounds
same.
messed up to me.
Um, and again, like there was no fighting, it just happened. They just
Right.
got it. And,
Of course. It's like, hey, we're going to give ourselves a pay raise.
and knowing that the classified bargaining was coming and they didn't just pause their own raises. And so they also sent the layoff notices during that period and gave themselves raises. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's what kills me. I mean, I'm sorry, but if they're making six figures, they're not struggling. I mean, before I retired, I was making six figures with my military retirement and what I was making from the state. I was making about 100 110 to 120 grand a year. Dude, I was living high on the hog. I did not have to worry about nothing. So if you're making that much, it's like, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm going to give myself a $5,000, pay raise, a year
I
pay
can give you
raise.
I can give you some data of what people are making in our district.
Yeah, please do.
200, yeah, 230 of our classified staff make less than $25,000 a year. 135 make less than 30,000. 384 make less than 40,000. And out of the 1,087 employees, only 105 of them make over 60,000 a year.
I
And it caps
mean,
out around like 78.
yeah.
So
Well, and
100
anyone,
people. Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I can't
So
believe
less
you
than
got people.
10%
Yeah, I
of
can't
our
believe you got
employees.
people making 20K a year. I mean, I can't even that's my retirement. My retirement is 55K a year. Like that's my retirement from the military. Um and
Yeah.
and to me I'm like, I don't even know how people make it on 20 or 30K a year, especially if they got a family or something. I live alone, I'm single, I have a dog and a motorcycle, and that's
Mhm.
it. So,
Yeah.
and these are people that are what kills me is they're people working. How many of them? That's what do you know, or have you guys ever done a survey? How many of your employees are getting SNAP benefits? I know they're not called food stamps anymore. When I was a kid and
Yeah.
we got them, they were
The
called food
last,
stamps.
yeah, the last survey we did, it was around 10%.
See, and that kills me. How is it that we can have people that are working for our school district, and they qualify for SNAP benefits. They qualify for food stamps. That's insane. I mean, that right there is um, pardon the language, but it's a fucking disgrace. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it's these are people that
And
are
then you couple the poverty wages with the disrespect and the lack of dignity and the working
yep,
conditions are pretty brutal sometimes. And you expect people to just keep showing up
yep.
and they do. And some of the stories that I hear are just incredible that people keep showing up. A
Well,
couple of bargaining sessions ago, we had some testimony at the bargaining table from some members and some truly just unbelievable things happen and you just can't figure out why. Um,
and like to speak
but
to that, I
it's a
mean,
good session to
especially
listen to if you want to.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the people that work with your with your special needs students, people with developmental disabilities, things like that. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, obviously my mom, when she worked with people with in group homes, you know, you had people, they have developmental disabilities, and they often would be violent, not because like they can't help it because it's part of their developmental disability, right? But like my mom,
Sometimes
would get
communication, they're
would
trying
get
to say something,
punched
right?
or have things
Mhm.
thrown at her. I'm sure that happens sometimes in the schools.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and that's not the, I mean, and how do you solve that? Well, you solve it by making sure you have enough staff and you have enough trained and they're properly trained, because that's how we overcome those situations. Because my mom told me a story. They had a person that they provided services for, who, she was an older woman, and she would hurt people. Like, she was very strong and would throw things at people and stuff. And what happened was, eventually her behaviors went down because they ended up with the same people working with her over the course of several years, and
Mhm.
it improved her behaviors. This was not something that she
It
could
built a
control.
relationship and trust, probably.
Yeah.
Like the people got, you know, valued and cared for her.
Yep.
And that's exactly true for kids, is that they need to trust adults that they're working with. And when it's a constant stream of new faces or,
Yes.
um,
Well, she made
yeah,
one point.
it's really, really hard.
Yeah, she said, well, what they came to realize working with her every day was they started to understand her language. They could understand because she was nonverbal. She didn't speak. She couldn't even speak. But they started to understand, they could pick up on the signs, the physical cues, when she started to get agitated, and they started to learn things that they could do to circumvent that. That only comes, you can't teach people that. That comes from having the same people working with the same individual or student over a course of time, and those people being trained to identify that. And I'm assuming that that's the EAs that work with you guys, but yet I guarantee they're not getting paid like for that, for those soft skill, that expertise that they bring, because it
Mhm.
it takes it takes a certain kind of person to be able to do that type of work, and it takes skills that you can't just teach in a classroom you know
Right.
and
Mhm.
I'm assuming that your EAs are not some of your higher paid people at 4J.
No, they're about the middle of the road, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's just another example of
yeah.
I think, we need to start setting expectations for from I mean, we need to start setting expectations for our school boards and our management and our school districts to say, look, we need to recognize,
Yeah.
the contributions that workers make, and
They're
yeah,
they're ultimately responsible. They're signing the contract. They're voting to
yeah.
approve the contract. And so every lousy thing that ends up in there, they should have to acknowledge and own it.
Have
Or
any of those,
every great thing that could be in
yeah,
there too, right? Like there's a whole gamut of what you of ownership of what you approve as a school board, and they should really think about that.
question on the school board currently for 4J, are any of them on there, individuals that the labor chapter or the unions have endorsed, like as labor candidates or friendly to labor?
Yes, we endorsed Maya Rabasa and Erica Thesson.
And how have they been, regarding the bargainings, both for you and EEA and such, and how are they as, labor candidates?
I would say, of the school board members that I told you earlier that there are a few who kind of like take turns and come to the sessions. They've definitely been paying attention, coming to some sessions. And then the Zoom, it's all on Zoom and it's recorded, so you know they can watch it. I I don't get a sense that as a united board that they all care. Often when I speak at school board meetings, there are people that glaze over or roll their eyes when I speak. Um, they, it's hard
Yeah,
because I'm not doing it because I love it. I'm not coming there to tell them how
yeah,
terrible things are because I love telling them that. I want them to fix it.
yeah.
And I do believe they have the power to set the tone and the culture of this district, and and it, they should.
Are there any school board members that have been problematic, that have been like, more dismissive of the workers and the union, or hostile toward the workers or the union or anything like that? Anyone
I
that we should really be like
I
keeping
think
our eyes
that
on?
I think all of them honestly need to be monitored for their decisions and
Yeah.
asked about their decisions and being held accountable, and that when you get endorsed, it's not just for the campaign you're running in this little bit of time. It's for your whole time as a board member, um, until you run again. And so I do know there's a couple that have no care or concern that OSCA was wanting to check back in with them about their priorities,
Yeah.
last spring to make sure that we had put our endorsement in the right place. The answer was no, we're not going to talk to you again because we're not running for election right now. So
In
we won't forget
those,
that when you do run again, right? Like you chose not to talk to the workers who
yep. Can
endorsed you
you
before.
can you tell me which one said that?
Um, well, they're up for reelection. We endorsed them before.
Right.
Um, yeah.
But
Um,
because that's my thing is, and I'm going to be critical as a labor organizer and somebody who is like very much, uh, does my organizing, in labor circles. We need to start being more selective about who we support as labor candidates, who we give our money to, who we give our endorsement to. And we need to start holding those people accountable, because I see this a lot. You know, yeah, we've got some good labor candidates out there, but we got a lot of other people that do like what you're saying. They'll show up when they're going through an election. They'll give us some story about how, oh, my daddy was a union man, and I remember when I was a kid being at the union hall, and they'll tell you like, I support workers, and they might even show up for a rally or at a picket line. But when it comes to actually doing things that support the workers or labor, nothing.
yeah.
And anyone who says, well, look, I'm not running right now, so I'm not interested in what you have to say, that person should never get another labor endorsement from, I mean, honestly, they shouldn't get an endorsement from anybody, because it just shows that full of crap. All they're going to say whatever they got to say to get your endorsement. But I think like we need to start as a labor movement holding our elected officials accountable. And frankly, I'm a little bit more along the lines that instead of giving them endorsements, we just need to make them afraid that we might turn out against them. We might, if they're not doing what they said they would do, you know, not only will
Yeah.
they not get reelected, but expect that we're going to give them a hard time. I mean, simple as that. All
Yeah.
legally non-violent, targeted, direct actions,
Of course.
nothing sad. But people need to
Yeah,
be held accountable.
I do. I appreciate this
Yep.
opportunity, but I do have to be somewhere at 3:30 and it is almost
Yep.
3:30.
I gotta head over to
Thankfully, it's
the LCCEA rally
but
here too. So uh thank you, Lisa. I
yes.
appreciate it. I will post this on our YouTube, and then I'll use this to maybe write a little post on our blog and stuff, and send it out to everybody. But thank you so much.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Have a good
Yep.
night.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.